The global COVID-19 death toll now surpassing 600,000. That is according to Johns Hopkins University. Of the 188 countries tracked by the university, only 17 have not yet reported a virus-related death. The United States has the highest number of fatalities and is the only country reporting more than 100,000 deaths. If cases continue to increase, the virus could become one of the top 10 global causes of death. Now, despite the U.S. reporting about 70,000 new cases of COVID-19 a day, President Trump says he still does not support a nationwide mask mandate.
I want people to have a certain freedom, and I don't believe in that, no. And I don't agree with the statement that if everybody wear a mask, everything disappears.
However, the president's own health experts say the science is clear. Wearing a mask is America's #1 defense against the virus. Remember, several stores are now requiring customers to wear a mask beginning this week. That includes Walmart, Sam's Club, Target, Walgreens, CVS, Kroger, and Publix. We have the full updated list on our website, 11alive.com.